Hello and welcome to the first official episode of the World Wrestling Review here on Will's World. I'm the Heartbreaker Will Heathcote, and today we're going to talk about the future of the WWE storylines, kind of where they go from here after the whole kind of backlash from WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble, how they lead up to WrestleMania, and probably talking a little bit about last night's Raw as well, and just some other bits. You may have noticed, guys, that there's some changes on the channel. Let me know what you think, if you like him. If you don't like him, that's still good. I want to know your thoughts. But let's get straight into this video. So, obviously, as I mentioned, there was some backlash from the Royal Rumble, which I did a review of on this channel, so check that out. Yeah, basically, people weren't happy that Roman Reigns won, which I think is... People are saying it's worse than last year with what happened with Batista, and I'm not sure it is, because I think, like I said, mentioned in the other video, I think Batista coming back from a long absence and then winning was worse, and Bryan not being in the Rumble at all. I think this is nowhere near as bad, and the fact that people are supposedly cancelling the WWE Network because of this, I think is really silly. I mean, if you want to go on strike in a different way, but don't cancel one of the best things about WWE at the moment, which is the network, because, you know, at the end of the day, it is great value for money. No matter how shocking that pay-per-view was, people are still getting it for, you know, a third of the price sometimes, for $9.99. Plus, you're getting all the other stuff, which I think is great. You know, at the moment, I'm really enjoying the Beyond the Ring segments, documentaries. I'm also enjoying the Monday Night War, plus all the old stuff from ECW, WCW, and WWF. You know, I mean, what's not to like, guys? You know, don't cancel the network if you're pissed off with the decisions that are going off at the moment. I think it is a really silly decision for anybody who's doing that, but I guess it's their choice, and, you know, I'm sure there's other ways to protest, you know. But I really think people have been a bit harsh on Reigns. I think he has got a great future in WWE. That's kind of come under a little bit of scrutiny now, and we'll see how that kind of progresses, and we'll talk about that. But I think, you know, as a wrestler, I think he's got a lot of talent and charisma. I think people maybe just thought he needed a bit more time, and that's why they were so reluctant to cheer. And of course, you had the elimination of Daniel Bryan, which caused a lot of issues. People wanted him to win. They wanted him to win last year. He wasn't even in the Rumble. They wanted him to win this year. At least he was in the Rumble, but he got eliminated pretty early. So that seems to be the main gripe of people, is that Bryan was eliminated early and didn't win, but also because Reigns maybe not ready to take on that kind of face of WWE, and people probably maybe like Ziggler, Wyatt, or Ambrose or Rollins even, perhaps are more deserving of that kind of role. So I figured to take it upon myself and pan out a little bit of where I think the storylines are going to go. Obviously, this is completely my opinion, and they're all open to change, and there probably are going to be change as I go along. We didn't really get too much of an indication from last night's Raw, because it was cancelled as a live event because of a storm warning or something. Had little bits of segments. They showed the Rumble again. They showed the Triple Threat match again. They interviewed Reigns, who was kind of just explaining how shocked he was really about the reaction, but how he's going to power through it. And they had a bit of a confrontation with Lesnar. But he also had an interview with Dean Ambrose, I'm going to start with because he's my favourite wrestler of the current roster. And it was interesting when they interviewed him. I'll try and post a link to it, because you know, you really should watch it. Like, he still was his little crazy self, you know, his kind of lunatic fringe persona as he's portraying it. But at the end, he said something which was very interesting. He said, "Have any of you guys got any posters of me that I can look at or anything to keep me occupied or keep me busy, you know, keep me interested?" Now that could be just put down to him being a little bit lunatic-y, or it could be quite arrogant, quite or perceived as quite arrogant, self-centered, which I haven't got a problem with, obviously, because, well, it's me. But you know, it is perhaps setting up the possibility of a heel turn for Dean Ambrose, which is something that people have been clamouring for, but at the same time always seemed unlikely, because at the moment Ambrose is probably the most natural babyface they've got. You know, they don't have to edit in applause or cheers when they do SmackDown, and he got probably the biggest pop of the evening, Bryan, at the Rumble. So I kind of put down on my list that the most likely scenario for Ambrose was to kind of maybe be in a feud with Wade Barrett for the Intercontinental title, or possibly Sheamus when Sheamus comes back, as Sheamus is a heel and Ambrose is a face, and there could be that kind of rivalry there. I don't know how they'd start that up, but I was thinking that was most likely. However, if they turn Ambrose heel, I think after we'll talk about the other scenarios, but that kind of leaves Daniel Bryan, and I think them two could have a really, really great feud. Both good wrestlers, both really good on the mic. Good promos. Both obviously fan favourites in some way. I think you'd probably have a similar situation with Ambrose and Bryan that you had with The Rock and Austin. Both both of those wrestlers are over with the crowd. Austin always played that little bit of more of an anti-hero than The Rock, and I think you'd have that with Ambrose and Bryan. So I'm thinking, just with that interview from Raw last night, that maybe this is happening. Ambrose might not turn full heel, but he might turn anti-hero heel, and that's only going to be good to look forward to. I just hope that they give Ambrose something like that, because I don't want him to kind of languish in the mid card. I think if he was to get the Intercontinental title, I think he would make it good again. A really respectable title. It's whether they put it on him or not. We'll have to see. So that's my bit on Ambrose out of the way, because you all know how much I love him. So we'll get to the more pressing kind of immediate of what happens now. Where do they go from here in terms. They've got two choices with Reigns. They can either turn him heel, which would make no sense, because the whole reason they gave the Rumble to Reigns was because they want him to be the new babyface, the new Cena in a way, or whatever, the new face of the WWE going forward. And like I said, minus Austin, who was always more of an anti-hero rather than a heel. We've never really seen that, so it depends what they want to do. So they can turn him heel, or they can push through with him as a babyface and try to repair the damage that has been done. Now, as for how they do that, I'm not sure, because Lesnar at the moment is becoming more and more of a face. Whether that's their plan or whether it's just because crowd reaction, and even more so now, people will be cheering for Lesnar versus Reigns rather than Reigns versus Lesnar. So, what do they do? Do they just have two faces facing off at WrestleMania in the main event? I don't know. I've heard rumours that they may be now thinking of a triple threat match for the WrestleMania main event between Rollins, who will have cashed in at some point between now and then, and have Rollins versus Reigns, and have Ambrose in there as well as the kind of natural babyface. So that could happen. Then that means taking Lesnar out of the equation altogether. I think if that's the case, he'll just go back to UFC. But I think they may kind of be a bit kind of torn between that, because I think Reigns v Lesnar has the possibility to be a great match. Both powerhouses, both big personalities, and I think it would be interesting to see that. I just don't know how they're going to work it if both end up being faces. I don't think it'll work. But if they really want to keep going with that, and the heat on Reigns doesn't diffuse, they're going to have to turn Lesnar full face and just make Reigns a heel, and decide what they want to do with him post WrestleMania, because I think apart from that, there's not really much more they can do. So that's one scenario. I think Rusev and Cena has been set up great because of the backstage clash between those two. Whether they have a match before WrestleMania or clash, I think they may just have interfering in each other's matches. We'll see. I loved it at the end of the Rumble when everyone was cheering for Rusev, one of the main heels again, getting cheered because they just weren't happy with Reigns winning. I don't think he's going to turn full face. They can't do against Cena really, so that's a possibility. When Randy Orton finally comes back, you think that they're going to put him in a feud with Rollins because of all the storyline that Rollins kind of incapacitated Orton. But I think at some point Rollins will cash in. I think that's even more important now for him to cash in because of everything that happened at the Rumble. So there's that storyline. You've probably got Bray Wyatt against Undertaker if Undertaker comes back. If he doesn't, I think they'll put Bryan with Wyatt. I know they've already done that, but I think that might be the only option. I think they'll put Bryan with Wyatt if Ambrose doesn't turn, because then that leaves Ambrose v Barrett or Sheamus or whatever. You've got Triple H v Sting. I think that's a dead set now for WrestleMania. I think it's been built up. Disappointed not to see him in the Rumble Sting or make an appearance, but I think that's set up now. I think we're going to have that. Then for some of the not lesser superstars, but kind of less in the forefront, I think you're going to have maybe Ziggler v Ryback, and the reason I say that is because on the pre-show they interviewed Ziggler, Ryback and Rowan, and there was a little bit of tension between Ziggler and Ryback. Obviously they're both kind of faces, but I think Ryback will probably be better as a heel, to be honest. I don't particularly like him, to be honest, but I think he'd do better as a heel. So I think that could be a possibility. I think you'll have a bit of a feud with Harper and Rowan. I really do like Luke Harper. He's one of my favourites. I think he could be in the mix for the Intercontinental title again. Yeah, I really do like him. I need to push him again. And that'll be interesting to see whether they consider Rowan a heel again now after he took out Curtis Axel or not. But that'll be interesting to pair off them two in a longer feud. Maybe put the belt on Harper if Ambrose is otherwise occupied, or Barrett, you know what I mean, and have them two fight for it. And then you've probably got the possibility of Damien Sandow versus The Miz if they break up as a tag team. There'll be a bit of feud there as Sandow reclaims his kind of independence. And then past that, you're looking at possible superstars from NXT who could make the jump. I think for the Divas division, Charlotte's waiting in the wings, really. But I think Paige and Natalia and the Bellas are going to have a bit of a monopoly on that at the moment. The tag team division, I think the Ascension are going to kind of run with the Ascension, and possibly the Usos. As for single stars, I think the next big one obviously to come through is going to have to be Adrian Neville, and I'm surprised they didn't introduce him at the Rumble. I admit they may make a big deal of him coming out at Fastlane. And I think, past that, they maybe got Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, but I think they'll keep them in NXT for a little bit longer. So yeah, lots of possibilities, guys. Like I say, this is just my kind of thoughts, and whether that actually happens or not is we'll wait to be seen. But I'm hoping that, like I said, there's do something with Ambrose, and it is going to be a really interesting situation to see what happens with Reigns, because I really do think he's getting a harsh stick. I know he might not be the most comfortable on the mic, and he may be a little bit green still, but he doesn't deserve the heat he got. I mean, if The Rock can't even kind of get him over, there's a struggle at the moment, and I think he maybe needs to run as a heel and regain some of that heat and then turn. I think it'll be interesting. I think one way to kind of manipulate that is to have Reigns v Cena, simple as, because Cena has been that kind of in the middle of people hate him, people love him, and I think if they turn Reigns heel against Cena, he'll probably end up shifting back to being a babyface for most of the crowd, and then they can work it that way, and that would be my best option. But I think that may have to be post WrestleMania now. So they may have to just give him a run as an out-and-out heel. But we'll see. Like I say, guys, it's all up in the air, really. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this first official episode, like I said, of the World Wrestling Review. And that's what my kind of segment on wrestling is going to be called from now on. All my wrestling stuff. I was the Heartbreaker Will Heathcote. And keep liking, commenting, subscribing. And I'll see you soon. Peace.